What up, pod heads? Back at you again with another episode of the Podioslave podcast. I'm Tony. I'm here again, as always, with Anthony and Nate. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing great. I showed up. I always show up, but yes, I know we keep dragging the feet on this one, but I did have absence once, and I just can't let it go. It kills me still.
Yeah, no, you need to let it go. It's over. It happened a month ago or 6 weeks ago. It's done, man. Don't worry about it.
Let it go. Let it go.
I'm doing good, man. I love what we do. We have guests on, it seems recently, like almost every week. You know, Jesse and Sergio and everyone in the back catalog. It's why we do what we do. Collected the posters, collected the CDs, collect the vinyl to this day. We're just music nerds, and to chat with all these folks, it's a full circle moment.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, we have another outstanding guest tonight. At one point, we called him, a Swiss Army knife because it's exactly what he is in the music industry. Nate, who do we have on tonight?
Yeah, no, it's a great privilege tonight that we got to interview Jonah Matranga from the bands Far, Onelinedrawing, Gratitude. He's done a lot of solo work. We've been following this guy forever. So it's just one of those moments where, we put the line out there, hopefully we catch something, and it came back, and he was ready and down to talk current, present, past, and future with us geeks here, and we really got into it tonight. Even some sentimental moments in the podcast as well. A little moment of silence, which you'll hear going forward. So without further ado, we haven't said that in a while. Let's get into it with Jonah.
Tenderwild love, I've been looking for you so long. Oh, running everywhere. A lot of come and go, a lot of too soft, too strong. Oh, I know we're both scared, but if you take a chance.
Hey guys, Tony here. Thank you for clicking on the episode tonight. I'm really excited for you guys to hear the conversation with Jonah Matranga right now. If you like what you hear tonight or are new to the Podioslave world, go back and check out some of our other interviews. We had Sergio Vega very recently of Quicksand fame and Deftones, bassist for 10, 12 years. We've had Tucker Rule Thursday, talking Full Collapse, 20 years of that last December. We've also had Steve Ewing of The Urge and Peanut of 311, Frank Turner, who Jonah did a split with back in the day, and many, many more. Even last week, Jesse Leach of Killswitch. So lots of fun nerdery and conversations back there. Go check out all of the things that we do, nerdery, on podioslave.com, and hit us up on the socials at Podioslave on all of the social media platforms. Thank you.
It could be so much fucking fun.
All right, cool. Jonah, thanks for coming on the podcast tonight, man. We really appreciate you coming on to geek out with us tonight.
Grateful to be here, for real.
Awesome, man. And we've been fans for a very long time. So we're all in our mid to late 30s, so we kind of came up with a lot of your music. And it's really cool, actually. A lot of the guests that we've had on the podcast, we've been fans of all types of music. This podcast kind of showcases everything from hip-hop to rock, metal, everything in between. And there's an interesting kind of parallel with what you've brought to the table over the years, and it's our guests have some kind of symmetry with what you've done, from Frank Turner, which you've done a split with. We had Tucker Rule from Thursday, the drummer. You guys toured together, of course.
Yeah, tons, yeah.
Sergio Vega, the Deftones connection, of course.
Well, yeah, it's the whole family, shit.
Yep. Phil from Taproot.
We're going to keep going.
Yeah, it keeps going. Co-wrote a song with Taproot, Peanut, and from 311, and Steve Ewing from The Urge. We had those guys on. It's just, it does keep going. It's like there's just so many connections. You're literally like kind of the center to all this spider web of amazing talent. So it's cool to finally get you on, because you're the centerpiece to all this amazing music that's come out over the years.
I appreciate that context, and yeah, it's a nice thing to be going this long and hear stories like that and kind of get to see what all my little ideas have born in the world, and yeah, it's cool. Appreciate that.
So like Nate said, we've been fans since the Far days, Onelinedrawing, Gratitude. I'm a Gratitude fanboy. Maybe that'll come up in this conversation later. But let's get into current. You have a new Onelinedrawing album dropping June 24th.
I guess so. Wow. Yeah, coming right up.
Yeah. So we've listened to the songs that are available. Tenderwild, This Is Water. There's a couple others on Spotify. Very upbeat vibe. We've noticed. Is that like an intentional thing coming out of the pandemic, or?
I mean, this was made during the pandemic, so like a lot of my more upbeat songs, I'm pretty sure they serve as a firewall against the deep and agonizing depression that I can fall into if I'm not writing upbeat shit. And similarly, as you'll hear when the full record is out, there's some pretty bleak ass tunes on there too, and those as well serve as a way for me to get those demons out of me so that I don't carry them around all day. But yeah, this is definitely a record born of this past crazy bunch of years that our country and world has been in. I guess all my music is to help me through, but this album especially, and working with other people on it that were going through the same thing as I was, and really having it be the only real thing I could focus on for a while when we were all stuck inside, it gives it a kind of special weight. And so I think in some ways the brights are brighter on this record, and the bleaks are maybe even a little bleaker, so we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. First time using the one line drawing moniker in, geez, almost 20 years, right? 2004, was that the last time?
Yeah, that's it feels like coming home. I've been thinking about it, and basically one line drawing started right as Far was ending, as a very, very personal little outlet for one of my main loves, which is home recording and really simple recording with no fancy gear and just songs and really kind of direct shit. And then within a few years of starting one line drawing, it seemed like everybody and their mom was dropping out of their rock and roll band and starting a solo project with a pseudonym. And also the whole thing of emo was becoming a more popular commodified thing. Like when it was first used in the late 90s, it was really for just misfit bands, and no one really knew what it meant, and it didn't really connote anything except that I think the artist in question was trying to do something actually authentically emotional and kind of wearing one's heart on one's sleeve. And then it turned into this sort of brand name that was about being sort of aggressively and commercially mopey, and that was never my shit. And I really didn't like the expectation that came with it. I didn't like the people that were starting to come out to shows when it started to turn into more of a scene and less of a community. Mm-hmm. And so it's funny, the two things that happened, speaking of gratitude, one was that I joined a rock band again and kind of went back to kind of that language, and I ditched one line drawing because I think I just wanted to get out of whatever thing was seemingly surrounding me. I get a little bit restless when there start to be people hanging out that I think are just hanging out to make the scene or whatever. So yeah, I bailed on that, tried a couple other things, lived kind of off the rock grid for a while, doing some solo stuff under my name, and then I did a project with Ian Love from Rival Schools called I Is Another. I did a project with Jay and Zach from Jawbox called Kimura. Those are more kind of rock, strange post-rock projects for those that like that sort of thing. And was just kind of playing around. And then as this record was happening, and I was considering a lot around social networks and identity and lots of crazy shit, I just realized that who I am is just kind of an animal on the earth doing what it is that I love, and one line drawing is the name for that. It just always has been. And all those projects I just mentioned, and New End and Gratitude, and I'm grateful for all of those things, and I really think all of them could have been one line drawing. I'm not mad or sad that I ditched it, but when I realized that this record was a one-line drawing record, it really did, a lot of things settled down in my body, and it feels real nice, which sounds so strange. It's just a name, but there's something really comforting about being back with it. And of course, being back with the robot and shit, that's fun too.
That's super interesting. The first time I even heard the name One Line Drawing was, I was telling these guys, I had a magazine subscription back in the day called Kerrang. I'm sure you're aware of that one.
Hell yeah.
Out of the UK. And there was an interview with, rest in peace, Chester Bennington. And they said, what are you listening to lately? I think this interview was like 2002. And he's like, I got some rough demos of this band called One Line Drawing. And I'm like, oh, what's that? And I did my homework and realized like, oh, that's you. That's Jonah. That's really cool. So it's crazy to see this name kind of come up again, especially because you were saying you were kind of under your name. And I saw you tour with Thursday, actually here in San Diego at the Soda Bar. So to see this album come out under One Line Drawing was kind of a cool, full circle moment. Like, oh, nice, he's using that name. And you giving context as to why is interesting for you, for it to be comfortable for you, and as the fan, likewise, for it to be like fitting. Like, oh, that it makes sense that this is going to be in that bucket. So,
thanks, man. That's I'm a little choked up hearing Chester's name. I never knew that dude, but I always heard he was a sweetie. And I remember when he died, I'm pretty sure I was just walking out of a show, and feeling grateful for singing, and he sure had a voice.
Mm-hmm.
And I never knew actually that he was into it. It's funny because I'm pretty sure that demo that he talked about is why Mike Shinoda called me up. Again, I was on the road somewhere, and I didn't really think it was the dude from Linkin Park calling me.
Right.
And Mike called me up, and he said he'd heard a tune called Pollyanna, and wanted me to come in for a couple of sessions.
Wow.
And that turned into the feature on the Lupe Fiasco record, a track called The Instrumental, and then a few tracks on the Fort Minor record, and a really sweet little friendship with Mike and his wife Anna. But it's really there's something that kind of fucks me up about hearing that it was probably Chester, that helped that happen, and I never got to talk to him about it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, he was one of a kind as far as voices go, and obviously we were in high school when Hybrid Theory dropped, and lived that hype and loved, saw him live, and it was not an easy thing to obviously lose a giant like that.
Yeah, it's pretty trippy for me there's a lot of great singers gone in the past bunch of years now, and I know it's not anything new for wildly successful and talented rock stars to be unhappy to the point of killing themselves, whether it's via drugs or just straight up suicide. But it still fucking aches, and it aches when it's people that I came up with.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Chester and Chris's death both hit me particularly hard in the past few years.
Yep.
Yeah.
Man, we'll cut this, but I almost feel like we need a moment of silence. Like it makes you think. It really does. And yeah, too soon on all fronts.
Yep.
I mean, my vote is don't cut that, and let's us just, doesn't have to be a bunch of time or whatever, but let's take 18 seconds. Ready? Here we go. For those we've lost, 18 is a Jewy number for life, so here we go. Thanks, you guys. That was sweet.
Yeah, no problem, man. Yeah, no, I don't want to change the subject, but I do at the same time.
No, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. We're all here. It's okay.
So, the new album, you've got a bunch of features. You've got Zach from Jimmy Eat World. You got Chris Carrabba of Dashboard.
Yeah.
Norman from Texas Is the Reason. You're all over the map. Which, I mean, knowing you and your history, this doesn't surprise us. But like, how do these things come about? Like, you just call some people and say, hey, I want you on this. I want you on my new one-line drawing stuff?
Yeah, I mean, all incredibly naturally. It's never even that I think, oh, I've got to have this person on that track or whatever. I mean, Norman's obviously a really good friend at this point. Jeremy, who I made the record with, was also in Gratitude and was also in New End. Jeremy DePero, lesser known name, just as massive on the album. Another guy called Rod Castro is a more recent friend, an insane, brilliant guitarist that for the more guitar-heavy songs on the record, he is to thank for much of that sonic mad wonderment. And Chris and Zach, and I'm going to throw in Jake from Minus the Bear, too. He played some fucking blistering guitar on a tune called Departure.
Nice.
But Chris, I think I had sent him the demo for Don't Give Up just because I like to send him shit once in a while and just say, hey, here's what's working, here's what I'm working on, and kind of get his ears on it and just kind of share. I like sharing with other musicians or whatever. And I think I remember him liking it. And then I had heard he was in some kind of fucked up accident. And so I just wanted to reach out to him. I think I might have sent him the track in its then current state, just as more of like a morale booster. Like, I think I remember you liking this one and I'm just sending you love. I hope you're okay. And I forget what happened from there. But I must have mentioned it's, in some aside, like, and hey, if you're at all in the condition to sing, needless to say, you're welcome on any tune of mine ever. And I could hear you singing with me on this chorus. And so he, I think, pretty literally got out of a fucking hospital bed and made it to a microphone and sung a few choruses. And I think you can really hear the ache in his voice on the track. And it's real special for me that he showed up. And then Zach is on a track called What I Know, which is a trippy thing because it's a song that Norman and I started writing for New End Original back in 2002.
Wow.
And it never got finished. And then we finished it. And we just, we thought of Zach for a lot of reasons. He's a person that we came up with, and Jimmy Eat World is a band that I came up with. And also, he's just such a fucking sweet, steady drummer, and the tune has this real pulse to it. And so, yeah, that was a real wonderful thing. He and I have talked about doing stuff together, and yeah, man, it was a real family affair. I think we were just making it through together, looking back on things, honestly. I think we were making it through together, and we did, and we made some good tunes on the way. Yeah.
Yep. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think there's in an environment like that, in the pandemic, we've talked to dozens of folks where you just don't know where creativity's gonna come from, whether it's an emotion, a feeling, whether it's being holed up and reconnecting with people from the past. I mean, it's actually kind of how we started this podcast was, out of that same spirit,
There you go.
And here we are chatting with you, Jonah. So this is,
I love it. Fucking love it.
It's awesome.
So one thing I am curious about, because we're all from the Northeast, we're all originally from Maine. Tony and I still live here. Nate's out in San Diego, but we've been Iodine Records fans for years. Like the Orange Island days, there were Wires, brand new back in the day. So how did that? I mean, we know you're from Boston, but how did the Iodine thing happen? I'm very curious.
Yeah, I'm curious too. I'm pretty sure. And Casey can correct me on this, but I'm pretty sure he just kind of reached out relatively randomly, just kind of saying what's up. I played a show in his basement back in the early aughts. It was me and Steve from Cave In.
Brodsky?
Yeah, Steve Brodsky and I believe Travis Piebald played a show in a very cat piss smelling basement. And it was a real sweet memory of a show. So I think Casey and I were kind of just talking about that. And all these conversations are so organic, but it's kind of neat because we made this record very personally, just with, we did a Kickstarter for it and just to make something over the pandemic. And then we had a little dream of like, let's find a cool little label that can put this out properly after we kind of do it in this personal way, just to kind of let go of it. And that I'd sort of not let go of that, but I was like, yeah, whatever happens, happens. I was just happy that we made it. And then Casey came along and we started talking, and it was just this very natural thing. I sent him the music. He loved it. And I loved that he was from Boston. I loved that he like me, was kind of returning in a way.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And so there just felt some symmetry. And just my initial conversation with him, I just discovered a lot of kind of simpatico with him. I just really like that guy. And I'm at a place in my life where I guess it's always how I've been, but I think I'm a little more peaceful about it now. All I want to do is make shit with sweet people. That's it. I'm not really bothered about, I don't need to have any more fights about this or that with anybody. I don't need to tell people my side of the fucking world. I just want to write songs and make them with like-minded creatures. And then, the dream of the business is always finding business people where that artistic feeling can keep going. And it's tough because there's a lot of incredibly wonderful businessmen and women who don't try, though they might. They can't quite feel what that is. And Casey just has an artist's heart, as far as I can tell. Yep. Real sensitive dude. And yeah, man, it was just a real easy fit. It was a real, I think it was just like in that same catch-up conversation by the end of it, like, yeah, we're doing a record together, cool. And that was it. And it's been really simple ever since. So I feel beyond grateful to have a home at Iodine. It feels just in a real great community. And yeah, man, I'm already looking forward to the next record, and I'm so fucking psyched for this record to come out. So psyched.
Nice. That's awesome.
You just said something that like got my gears spinning. It's like, who's like the best conduit for a business person, man or woman, that's going to be, in the realm of what you just said? It's basically like a record store employee, It's as close as you're going to get. So
that's right. I think yeah, Casey's probably that cool guy behind the fucking counter that sold a lot of people their first records,
Yeah.
Just a music lover. Yeah. Yeah.
In knowing the origins of Iodine, you would have to be in it for the love of the game.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying,
Exactly.
and knowing what he went through as that record label kind of got really big and then kind of, and everything got fucked up. And it's just, he's been through a lot. And that's kind of how I feel about all of us that have survived the implosion of this world that we grow up in and the only job I've ever known. Those of us that are still around and doing it, I think there's a special sort of family feeling to it now. There certainly is for me.
So we've talked about Boston a little bit. You're from the Northeast originally, right? From the Boston area. Grew up there and left around college age, right? So you were there till you were a young adult. Is that right?
Yeah.
So how mad at us are you right now that we're all missing the Celtics game? That's...
I've got a fandom thing developed in my head where we're doing the perfect thing right now by doing what we want to do and having a nice conversation. And that means we're supporting the Celts and playing better. I'll never forget, I was playing Boston in 2004 on the night of Game 4
Nice.
Of the ALCS when all was fucking lost. I was playing a show with a couple of comics in a Chinese restaurant, and the game was on the TV, and I just, as the night wore on, and it looked like maybe we'd fucking pull out a win, I just remembered thinking, just like, keep on singing, keep on being with the Sox, and I take full credit for our victory that year.
I have to say it. Anthony is a Yankee fan, so that one hurts him a little bit. But hey, man, I loved all of that.
As weird as it sounds, all the love in the world to the Yanks and the fans. I learned a long time ago that it's. I just want the person who's given my team shit to be as in love with their team as I am with mine.
Totally.
Yep. That's
I like
it.
that.
That's all I care about. It's I've actually come to have I think over the years there's become a sort of a grudging respect between Sox and Yanks fans. And I just enjoy that fun loyalty. I mean, it's all total insanity, but if you're from the East Coast, if you're from Boston, I don't even remember caring about sports that much as a kid. It was like, it is this thing that's in my blood. When there's a Boston team playing, I'm just all in. And whoever's playing against them, I just want them to die, you know? I don't know what my problem is, but it's a beautiful thing. So yeah, anyway, I think we're doing the right thing, and I think it's and it actually feels nice just knowing that when we get done, we're all going to fucking sit down and see what's going on. So
Yeah, we'll catch the second half. We'll be fine.
there you go.
We can relate because we have that fire for sports. We also have it for music. That's why we're doing this. So did you have that same fire for music in, I don't know, I'm not going to date you, maybe late 80s, early 90s?
Oh, we can date me. It's fine.
Like going to shows and stuff in Boston area?
I mean, music, it was beyond a kind of a fire for it or whatever. At that time in my life, totally honestly, I had a pretty fucking crazy childhood. I think one of the only comforting parts of the first few years of my life was when people were sitting around playing guitars. And I think that got into my body as like a safe place to be. And then I was just I grew up in Cambridge and then Mission Hill after my dad left. And so it was kind of hippie poverty, then like straight up fucking poverty. And then got to Brookline, which wasn't nearly as fancy as it is now, but it was still a lot fancier. And there was good public schools, and it was just a much more stable life. And then, of course, like a lot of kids that go through trauma of one sort or another, I then spent the ages of, 10 to 16 just completely losing my shit in vandalism and drugs and all manner of destruction. And within those years, the only thing that felt like it gave my body and brain peace was putting on tunes and just kind of lying in bed. And then as easily as I was falling in love with music that way, I was falling in love with creating it. And there was nothing, like all my friends would practice their guitar licks and shit over and over and over again. And when I got my first 4-track, I would just sit there with my headphones for hours and hours and hours. So it was such a part of some of the only peace I had that when I realized that I loved music, it was I don't know, it still almost feels like the bands I love, they feel like family to me. It's strange. I think music is a little bit like sports that way. Like, I don't love all music or anything. I think actually most music, like most people, like whatever, is stupid. But the good shit, the shit that gets through to me, it just feels like a buddy. It just feels like a friend. Yeah. So it was a big deal. And yeah, I mean, shit, at the time I was in Boston, and let's say from like, 10 to 16 is what, 79 to 85. At that time, I mean, there's literally the band Boston, which is one of the biggest bands in the world.
Yep.
There's fucking Aerosmith when they were actually really fucking good. There's the Cars, all from our town. Like, from
crazy.
our town.
Yeah.
Like local bands. It's wild looking back on it. And then there was Mission of Burma. There was a band called O Positive that I was really in love with. There was sort of, and then there's there was the amazing Boston hardcore scene. And, and then beyond all of the bands that were coming out around me because of BCN and FNX and all the cool college radio and Emerson and like so much cool radio around there. So many bands broke in Boston first. U2 broke in Boston first. The Police broke in Boston first, the fucking Clash loved Boston. Like, so many bands. And I just, looking back, I feel so lucky that I was, in fact, I feel a little bit stupid because I probably should have been making it to more shows and stuff, but I was honestly just in my room luxuriating in all this sound that was being made. And if I'd known that there was history playing every other night at the fucking channel, or the Paradise or any number of places, TT the Bears, just anything, I maybe I would have done more about it, but I think I just felt so happy to be surrounded by so much amazing shit.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. That was actually my next question. I was like, were you checking out these shows? Because I was thinking about the venues, because we've watched Boston evolve from like Axis, Avalon, Middle East, you know, like you said, Paradise, all these clubs. A lot of those are gone now. You get House of Blues now instead. Well, I guess House of Blues actually started in Boston, left and came back, right? And Paradise, for instance, like their whole entryway to that venue is those posters, you know, concert posters like you two. Like, yeah, they started here.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to hear that. But the fact that you weren't at them, you were just absorbing it in your bedroom is crazy. Because we always like, oh shit, I wish I could get down to Boston. I can't get a ride down.
Yeah, I was I remember a Mission of Burma show somewhere in some small venue. I think even then I would definitely, you know, I have a lot of wonderful memories of the Centrum and of course the Garden when I started going to bigger shows and stuff. And, you know, I definitely made it to different venues when I could get in. But I think, like now, I think I sort of preferred the smaller shit. I remember seeing O Positive at the Longwood Auditorium doing an AIDS benefit, and that was a really formative show for me. And I think precisely because it was just in this weird auditorium, it wasn't in like a professional rock and roll situation.
Yeah.
And there was something really compelling about that to me. I think I wasn't as fascinated by like a large rock club with lights, as odd as that sounds. I was just more curious about the kind of scruffy corners where bands were playing. But I don't know. Yeah, it's a very interesting thing to look back on. I really can't remember how I felt as a kid, because like I say, it was a little bit more like my religion or my kind of safe place than something like I was into. But yeah, looking back on it now, I guess I just feel grateful to have been from there. I would like to think that some of that fucking Boston sass kind of got into me and is part of why I've been able to hang out as long as I have and make shit that has stood the test of time, which I feel really grateful for and proud of.
It's funny you mentioned those like dingy corners, and we talk about that with record stores, we talk about that with venues all the time on this podcast. Those are the types of places we love too, and I want to find out who's there and why and all that, and then you end up moving to California and you're in the Sacramento area in that scene, and you're in kind of those corners, right, with Far, starting Far up and kind of getting that going, and then being around a lot of great musicians in that area too. So talk a little bit about that. Like that's kind of wild that you had that in Boston. You kind of had that pedigree that you saw those places, those awesome little hole in the wall venues, and then moved out to Sacramento and kind of took that with you. I definitely think you took that with you to you know, turn that scene into what it was.
That's interesting. That's some cool dot connecting actually. And I've never quite thought of it like that, but I feel also immensely lucky to have begun my attempt to make music for a living or whatever in another kind of scruffy little community that was kind of blowing up. I mean, you know, Deftones and Cake came out of that scene, like two incredibly different bands that have, you know, gone on to do sell a fucking bunch of records and play some big ass shows and be kind of a lasting cultural force in different ways. And yeah, all I know about Sacto is that all my friends were in bigger cities and stuff, and our shows were the best. Like, they'd come and play with us, and they'd be like, where the fuck are all these kids coming from? And it was just a really perfect combo of, there were some real music-loving promoters and some music-loving infrastructure in the town, and there were a couple all-ages clubs that were in between the burbs and downtown that weren't too scenish and were just kind of like, whoever wants to come, like, let's do this. And yeah, it had the spirit, and it was perfect for me because I was a total misfit in every way. I was sort of this singer-songwriter who really wanted to play in a rock band, but not like a normal rock band, and I didn't mind being a front person, but I knew I was not a traditional, you know, male rock front person. And I felt like I was given a lot of room and latitude to be who I was in Sacto and to make the music that I was hearing in my brain and trying to get out. And yeah, I feel so lucky that my first real band got to, I was like learning from and with like, John McRae from Cake, Chino from Deftones. Those are like, those in some ways, I almost think like if you mash up certain elements of Cake, and you know what, actually the real influence on me for Sacto and kind of my big brother and someone I can't say enough about is Kevin Seconds, who
Nice.
of course was is the singer for a wonderful band called 7 Seconds. I think they just finished up a bunch of dates. And Kevin's presence in the middle of it all, for me in particular, was important because he was this legend already, and yet he was the coolest of anybody out there. And even though he was this hardcore legend, he was also kind of a pariah at the time. 7 Seconds had really kind of strayed from the dogma of hardcore and punk, and I loved that. I just love when people have the fucking balls to like do their own thing, and Kevin is that for me. So between Kevin and Cake and Deftones, I think you've got something like what I think was interesting about Far. A band that was getting real quiet and acousticy and strange, and showing some kind of up-tempo punk sort of energy, but then also getting to that Bad Brainsy riffy shit. And it was it was just a cool little stew to be growing up in. There were no limitations, and everyone was in agreement on just make sure you mean it and do what you do. Yeah.
It's interesting hearing that from you, because us as fans of Far, I never even knew how to place you. I mean, we have strictly nu metal friends that love Far. We have punk and hardcore friends love Far. We have emo friends that love Far. Yeah. So whether you're a 7 Seconds Side One Dummy guy or an Incubus fan, there's you guys. But I've always wondered, like, where did you see yourselves? Did you?
I can't speak for the guys, but for me, it's funny because I heard this in reference to the Grateful Dead, who also, like, no shade to them, but not that none of my music is really like theirs, except a lot of the way I've done my career is related to them, because I heard someone say something to this effect about them, which is they aren't the best at what they do, they're the only ones that do what they do. And from a really early age, I realized that I wasn't going to be everyone's cup of tea. I didn't know really what people were going to like and what they weren't. I just wanted to do my thing. That was all that really mattered to me. And the reason we chose the name Far, actually, in particular, we fought a lot and had a lot of other, terrible band name ideas that thankfully weren't taken. We wanted to choose something that was very simple and to the point and didn't suggest any genre, that really was sort of like our non-binary band name. We didn't want to choose a scene or a look or a sound. We just wanted to do a thing.
You succeeded.
Yeah, no, I mean, we maybe succeeded all too well in that no one knew what the fuck we were doing. And we'd be the band that was way too loud on one bill and then the band that was way too soft on the next bill. And either way, everyone pretty much hated me. But it was like, we were having fun. I was having fun. Again, me and music, I love it when people are there. But man, get me into a song, whether I'm listening or singing. I remember being at a party in college and flipping out in a corner to Wanton Song by Zeppelin, and this woman walking up to me and trying to be all like sassy and get me flustered and saying, is that what you look like when you come? And I looked her straight in the eye and I was like, I don't get nearly this excited. And that's just kind of who I've been. And so all I really wanted to do was make a noise that was not an easily familiar noise, but yet was comforting and human and sincere. Like, I never wanted to be weird for weird's sake. That's actually one of my least favorite things to do in the world. But I did want to do a thing that I could feel confident was me. And I believe that the band, I'm not trying, like, the other guys in the band can speak for themselves on that. I never want to speak for anyone else. I try to be careful about that. But I believe that we shared that ideal. We really just wanted to be a band with our own deal, which, again, was very encouraged in Sacramento, and I really appreciated that.
Kind of ahead of its time. I mean, if you look at the way music has gone over the last, even say 20 years, the genre mashups and the putting different bands together on tour was far more common even 10 years ago than it was probably in 1995.
Yes.
And to you guys were you're ahead of your time, and you were it's kind of wild. I mean, you're still doing it, so you're not really, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, it's trippy, it's when I look between 96 and 2001, as in between those two Far records and then the first One Line Drawing stuff and then the first one New End Original record, and then Visitor came in 2002. On those records you can hear music that made not that much sense at that point, and certainly was nowhere near the mainstream, but you can hear One Line Drawing shit on a Billie Eilish record or a Phoebe Bridgers record. You can hear New End shit on a fucking Machine Gun Kelly record. You can hear Far shit on any number of loud rock bands, and really, really, really mainstream rock bands. So all of those people I just mentioned have way more money and fame and whatever than I will ever and have ever had and ever want, would ever want. And I don't know if they know me from fucking Adam, but I know that I'm part of the musical DNA that's coursing through their albums. And it's a wild feeling. I'm not necessarily, I don't really feel one way or another about it, but I suppose I feel happy that what I was doing has aged well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It has. I mean, Water and Solutions, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. I can't go a day on the internet and not see that album cover on my feed in some social media.
Wow.
In good light.
Yeah, that feels real
It
sweet.
has a legacy.
Yeah, no, that record in particular, I mean, and I'm happy because I still love it too. That record has really, it still sounds fresh when I hear it. It still sounds interesting to me, which I'm so grateful for all these years later. And I'm really, if there's one thing I didn't really understand this when I started making music, but once I make something and dare to release it into the world, anyone can find it at any time. A day later, a year later, a decade later.
Yep.
And it gets to be, and someone might be like, yeah, like hearing fucking Mother Mary kick in and getting that feeling that you get when you listen to music, And man, I feel real happy to be part of that legacy. I really do.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. I revert to this quote quite often, but it just kind of sums up what you said. Is Wayne Coyne from the Flaming Lips. He's like, people complain about the music scene now and say it sucks, but it's like, you have access to all the music that's coming out today, plus the history of music. You can just go back and find something that, is new to you, like almost like you find a random book in the library and all of a sudden you're inspired again. Yeah,
that's my favorite sport, by the way. I'm fine to find new things. That's totally great.
Yeah.
And my favorite thing is to find an artist from any period that really never got heard much.
Yeah.
But someone will kind of whisper their name to me. Hey, check this person out, and I'll go and it's just a whole universe opens up. So yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, that's sweet. And I kind of like being a little secret weird artist, honestly.
Yeah, you're the niche.
Not that I would mind some millions and all that shit, but I kind of like being a little secret. I think it might be what I always wanted, and it's kind of what I got, is like, it's not something that is going to be on at the mall probably, but one of your close friends might talk to you about it. And I really enjoy that. And by the way, I want to just, that gratitude, even though Gratitude was on a major and stuff, and they really tried to make us popular, I think one thing I've never been is a great investment for a multinational conglomerate. But I think I've made good records, and I would put Gratitude in that same category. As poppy a record as it is, I love that record's a sweet little secret record, and I'm happy that people are still finding that one too. I just didn't want to leave that one out because I really love that one too.
I mean, you open the box here. I love that record. I genuinely can see that, like, see you guys opening for U2 at like Gillette Stadium. It's that big. Like it has that vibe, and I think it could be your best vocal performance. Like I don't know if you ate your Wheaties, had some extra tea, had some throat coat or something, but whoo.
I appreciate that. I feel really happy with the singing on that record as well. I think there's a few things to it. I think Brad Wood, who produced Tin Cans, and Dave Sardi, who produced Water and Solutions, in particular, because those are the only two like professional producers I'd worked with, really taught me a lot about singing. And then I got to go do one line with nothing between me and the audience. It was just me and a guitar, or sometimes just me. And so I could take all this stuff that I'd learned being in Far and learning from producers and go and be playing a sidewalk one day and a festival the next and have to carry it off with pretty much just my voice. Because my guitar playing is nothing to really distract anyone too much. So by the time Gratitude came around, all I really wanted to do in that band, it's pretty astute of you actually, making that record, I was like, I want to write some bulletproof songs and I want to sing the living shit out of them. And that's that's what I tried to do. So I'm happy that at least for you, that worked out that way.
Yeah. The Greatest Wonder is...
That's my favorite track on the record.
Yeah, man. This is my PSA to our listeners. If you have not heard the Gratitude album, self-titled album from 2005, Atlantic Records, go check it out. Do yourself a favor. If you like Jonah, if you don't like Jonah, you will love this record.
I love that. And by the way, if anyone listening gets that far and does like The Greatest Wonder, then hit me up on the site and I'll shoot you just the isolated vocal from that track.
Ooh.
And remind me, and I'll shoot that to you, of course. And it's not like, and you'll see how great I am. I just think it's a pretty evocative moment, and I feel grateful that I was a part of it. I was a real mess when I made that song and when I did that vocal, and I'm so happy it was preserved because it has brought me and the people who have heard it. I've sung that song at the happiest occasions I've ever sung at, like as in multiple weddings, and then I've sung it at more than a couple of memorials. It's just a tune that helped me through a really confusing time, emotionally speaking, and it seems like it helps other people too. So I really appreciate that shout out, and yeah.
You mentioned the website. What website are you talking about there?
Oh, JonahMatranga.com.
Nice.
That's it. And the good news is that my name is so fucking weird that if you just type in Baba plus the word music, you'll probably find me. Just get anywhere close to Jonah Matranga, whatever you think that's spelled like, because everyone gets it fucking wrong. Just do that, add the word music, and you will find me, and we will be buddies.
And we'll make it really easy for you. If you're listening to this, go into the show notes. It'll be right there.
All right, so we went out of sequence, which is great. I love when this happens. It's just so natural. And that Gratitude album, I could talk about all day. But coming out of Far, you do the one-line drawing stuff. Was there ever an overlap while you're in Far where you're writing stuff maybe solo? And how is that, that contrast from being in a band to solo?
It was not a conscious choice. It was the songs that did it. In particular, there's a song called 14 to 41 that I'd written that I really, really loved. I tried to, for those that know the tunes, it's kind of interesting to, if you want to imagine this, I tried to have Far play 14 to 41. I tried to have Far play Hostage, which ended up on the new original record. I tried to have Far play Your Letter, which ended up on Visitor, a much sort of like heavier version of it. I tried to have Far play Better Than This, which ended up on a couple of records. And so, yeah, there was this time when I was, and Far didn't really like Mother Mary when I brought it to him.
Wow.
So there was just a real there was a thing happening in the band where I was writing this music that I thought we'd sound great playing. And we were not in agreement. It happens in bands. So I knew that I wanted to get the tunes out one way or another, but honestly, again, One Line Drawing was supposed to be a quiet little personal thing that I would do just to kind of get some songs out of my system if Far didn't like them. And for whatever reason, that ended up being, at least part of a fracture within the band. I mean, there was so much going on that I find it hard to, I certainly don't blame any one person, and I don't even blame any one circumstance, but, I was the only one in the band who was a dad. I'd always been a little different than everybody, and I was increasingly less interested in I was never that into what heavy rock was and that's why I wanted to do a band that was different than that. And so the more homogenized and sort of sensationalistic, I guess is the word I would put it, that rock got, the more I wanted to kind of fuck around and do some different stuff. I mean, again, Kevin was a huge influence on me in the way he would buck trends and not just say, like, I'm a punk artist, so therefore I must only do 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. I think songs are songs. I think songs lead me where they want to go. But that's the thing about bands. There's other people in them. There's other human beings, and you got to respect their shit. And it just, it happened the way it did. I frankly wish that we had stayed together and I had done some, One Line Drawing records. But, life is life.
So just quick question about that. The way that you have these different kind of outlets depending on what you want to do musically, when you go to write a song, are you putting whatever you're doing in a box, or are you just writing the song and then maybe figuring it out after?
Yeah, I mean, it's going back to that school, like that growing up thing. When songs come for me, it's the center of what I love about doing any of this is just the feeling of an idea coming into my head. It's just so exciting. And it's also a little terrifying because I really want to do it right. I want to do it justice. I want to get that idea from my head out into the world in the most beautiful way, which for anyone who's ever tried recording a song knows that's a real bear. So yeah, it's really just kind of sorting my way through it. It's a much more therapeutic process than anything involving craft or whatever. I know a little bit about music, I guess, over the years. I've learned some, but I'm still pretty much a 3-chord wonder kind of guy. I throw some weird shit I don't know what I'm doing in there sometimes, and I like to fuck around with time signatures, but mostly I just love dynamic, and I love telling a story and hopefully like getting from my weird ass little heart into someone else's. I think that's my favorite sport.
Nice.
So the song is almost secondary to that. It's just trying to get to that place, and then I guess when I get to that place, then there's a song there, and whatever that song sounds like, that's what it sounds like.
So you're more recording a feeling than anything else, right?
That's definitely what's trying to happen. It's there's definitely something going on where I wrote about this. Basically said that it's sort of like seeing a little animal in the woods, and I don't quite recognize the animal, and I kind of try and follow it, maybe see where it wants to live, and see if I can get it to hang out with me, and once the little animal starts feeling safe around me and I feel safe around it, and we're kind of hanging out together, that's when the song is done. So it's a strange process, and all I know is it's really important to me. It's been a part of my life as long as I can remember. I mean, literally, I think I wrote my first song in like 6th grade or something like that. And again, I had no idea what I was doing. All my friends were better than me at music, but goddamn did I love a song.
That's so cool. I'm thinking like the bands that you were touring with in that phase, so you were signed to Epic Immortal, and I have a poster somewhere buried in storage. It's Far opening for Incubus on like a European tour, I think like 97 for Science. Yeah. And similar to what you're saying, like that band, at least in that phase, they were just writing music for the sake of writing music. It's like, what is that? Funk, rock, jazz, so similar to what you were just saying, like there's really no perfect slot for this, but I guess because you guys were label mates, you're able to kind of not only get signed, but actually go out and tour internationally, which is super cool.
Yeah, that was sweet. It was a 90s was a cool time for rock misfits to find each other.
I love that.
Yeah, yeah, it was a sweet time like that. Yeah. That said, while I will never question the chops of Incubus, I was always, a lot of people talk about us in Deftones and different ways that I or we have influenced things, but the change in Incubus in the time that I knew them, that I would like to think had something to do with Be Around Me and all my choruses and stuff, is really neat to watch. And I really like when they got some big ass choruses going.
Well, the guitar and Wear It So Well, let's just say that inspired Incubus heavily.
It does sound like
Go
it, doesn't
listen
it?
to.
Oh no, I know.
Oh,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh yeah.
If you know, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and I love those guys. I was just talking to Mike the other day. So it's all love. I think we were all learning from each other, like I say. But yeah, it's cool. Like I'm happy about that. Like
Yeah,
yeah, it's real sweet.
It's funny. In preparation for this, we, whether it's, the various bands you've been in, whether it's the connections like Nate listed at the beginning of this episode, we kind of, you're like the Swiss Army knife of music and kind of the connection points of this podcast. And it keeps like the more you like examine the Swiss Army knife, the more tools there are. And one of the tools that we didn't even know was a thing, and we mentioned it earlier, was your feature on Lupe Fiasco's debut, Food and Liquor, on the track, the instrumental. So we have two questions.
Yeah.
One, how the hell did that happen? And two, that record went gold. So did you get a gold record?
That's, you know what? I fucking shouldn't I?
Ooh, we're on to something.
Yes.
I think I should have a couple for that one and the Fort Minor record. Well, no, and we're back to that crazy time. I mean, we were speaking about it some earlier, but that was Mike Shinoda from Linkin Park. He was working on the Fort Minor record, and he happened to be producing a track on the Lupe record, and he brought me down to Los Angeles, and we hung in a studio, and for the instrumental, he wanted to use the hook from Nestle, a Far song called Nestle, and he didn't want to use the one off the album. He wanted me to re-sing it to get a cleaner take on it. And so it was just one of those times hanging out with a buddy that turned into, I mean, I love that. I love Food and Liquor as an album, and I think the instrumental is a really, really strong track on a really strong album, and so I just feel real grateful to be part of that. And then the Fort Minor shit I was on too was killer, man. I sung on a song called Red to Black, which is this really interesting tune. And then talk about massive, I still get, little fucking digital performance rights things just for being featured on Where'd You Go, which is a sweet little like kind of hip hop ballady thing. And yeah, that was just a really fortuitous thing to be given that shot by Mike. Yeah, I'm really grateful for it. But no, not a lot of millions, and certainly no gold plaques on my wall, which I think I now need to demand.
Atlantic Records, where you at?
We'll start a petition, an online petition. Get Jonah a gold record, guys, right now. That kind of led me to a question that we don't actually have on the list here, but you're talking about kind of having these opportunities and maybe somebody knowing your older stuff and wanting you to either redo it or maybe pull from it. Does that happen more than we know about? Do you get, I mean, because again, so many people, you've been connected to so many different artists over time. Do you hear from people here and there like, I like this, I'm going to do something kind of like that, or can we pull from that a little bit?
I mean, yeah, it's one of those things that's difficult to really know. Yeah, I wish I could know everything about all that stuff. I really do. Yeah. But at the same time, I think the mystery's kind of neat, truthfully. I guess I just try to imagine happy things about it. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that thought. It's nice to think about.
All right, so another one, we mentioned it earlier, right at the beginning, actually, Taproot. For Blue Sky Research, I guess you know those guys from the past as well. We're curious, if we had Phil on, he was mentioning, having you to kind of collaborate on the song. How did that come about? Did you reach out to them? Did he reach out to you? Or?
No, that was actually, I was in the studio with Gratitude.
Oh, okay.
And Gratitude shared management with Taproot. They were working on their third record, I believe. Their first two had been, real successful and stuff, but they were looking for that tune. And they were enlisting some crazy A-listers. I mean, they had Billy Corgan writing on one. They had Nick Hexum from 311 writing on one. They had a bunch of, people way more successful than me. And I honestly think it just got a shot because someone mentioned it. I was like, oh, I know that band. I think that, they liked Far and stuff. And, give me some instrumentals. Let me see what I can do. And that track happened really quickly. I sent it to them. They really loved it. They came into the studio where Gratitude was recording the record, and on a kind of, off day or off couple hours where someone else was doing something else. So we went I feel like we were in a weird little kitchen space or something, sitting in a little circle, and we just kind of hashed it out together. It was real fun. I would like to do more of it, that kind of co-writing in person with a rock band in particular, because I think there's something about working with a band of incredibly talented people playing pretty heavy shit and getting to be the guy that's wanting to make sure that the feeling is there, that the melody is there, that the hook is there, because all those things, again, I think growing up in Boston, I really learned what it is to mean it and to dig into a song, and also what it is to write a chorus that sticks in your head and keeps you going throughout the day. I mean, I fucking grew up on Just What I Needed and More Than a Feeling and, Mama Kin, and I will remember those songs for the rest of my days. And I want to write songs that other people remember for the rest of theirs, basically.
Well, hey, it's no accident you ended up on Lupe Fiasco's debut. I mean, they're not tapping just anyone for that.
It is. It's a very... I think the most interesting thing for me, apropos what I was saying about, I don't care about being the best, I just want to be the only one that does what I do, is that I can't think of another artist, I guess kind of at any level, but especially with as relatively little success as I have had on a mainstream level, who has had their fingers and toes in as many different genres.
Agreed.
From super lo-fi bedroom indie to super silly kind of twee shit to really immensely heavy shit to, singing on Thursday records, singing on Deftones records, singing on Lupe Fiasco records, just kind of all over the place. And I feel real lucky, grateful, and proud to, 25 years into doing this, to still be psyched singing, still be making music that I think is potent, that reaches across genres and across scenes. And looking back on it, I think I got this body of work that is just truly not like anybody else's. And I enjoy that. So anyone who's at all curious about this, wherever you begin, as you were saying about the Gratitude record, whether you like the first thing you hear or not, it's sort of like the weather in Boston or something. Just, it'll change in a second. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
I love that.
But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, we didn't even touch the new end stuff, and we could chat with you for days, and it would just be a nerd fest, which we love to do. But hey, the second half of the Celtics game is right around the corner, so I think we'll probably look to wrap this. I mean, if you haven't heard the new One Line Drawing stuff, go check it out. The new album comes out June 24th, Iodine Records. It's called Tenderwild. The production's slick. Again, Jonah, you can write a damn song, and it's got a slew of features, like we said. Zach from Jimmy Eat World, Chris Carrabba, Norman from Texas Is the Reason. I think Iodine's a great home for it, and we're excited for it. We've heard what you've put out, those couple songs, and then Someone on the Internet we've heard, which is a great tune.
I love that one, actually. But if anyone hasn't seen the video for that one, I'm really proud of this weird little video I made for that. So just dig Someone on the Internet. But yeah, man, it's all... I think I'm psyched for you guys to hear the full thing. It's got a lot of colors, goes to a lot of places, helped me through a lot, and as with all the music, as I often say and always mean, I hope it helps you through too. That's what music has been about for me. I hope it's fun. I hope you get to party in it and do the thing. And all like music's entertainment. And I'm grateful to make a living. But if you're like me, music helps you survive the shittiest parts of your life and helps you celebrate the best parts. And that's what for me Tenderwild is about. It's about, that's this Tenderwild. The song was literally my wedding vows, and it was as much a promise to life as it was a promise to my wife, which is like to have a tender wild love, like a love that's vulnerable and real and also fucking loose and feral and Boston and fucking out there. So that's what Tenderwild's about. Yeah, I appreciate you guys so much, man. What a sweet time. I've been in a really awful mood today, and the conversations I've gotten to have really helped me out of it. So Good. Go Celts. Let's hope the Sox get themselves out of the goddamn dumpster.
Yep.
A Yanks fan over here is loving this. So I'm just
watching. I'm a silent observer.
I just hope you get your first ring in the 21st century. That's all.
I know, right? It's been a while.
Because we got 4. Yeah. By the way.
Hell yeah.
I think it's been a decade plus.
Yeah. Sox are only a couple of years.
I should have worn my Yankees hat, but geez.
Anyway, seriously, all love, such a good tang, and good luck with everything else, man. I'm glad this thing started. I'm glad I got to be a part of it, and it's but real though, have I talked with this particular crew of people before?
No. Go ahead, Nate. Actually, no. Yes and no. Nate, go ahead.
Right?
Yeah.
I knew there was
Nate.
Something. Right?
Yeah, there's a yes and no. I met you
When did we meet, Nate?
Thursday, when you were opening up for Thursday at Soda Bar in San Diego. We hung out.
There it is. I knew there was something beyond Boston that was familiar about this, and I couldn't quite place it. But anyway, I'm happy this is going down, and I look forward to my next time hanging out with you guys, hopefully in person somewhere.
That'd be awesome. Hell yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yep.
All right, man.
Awesome.
Thank you, Jonah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Really do.
Take care. Late.
Sometimes there's a hidden cost. Sometimes there's a secret master. Sometimes lives are lived and lost in invisible disaster. This is water, this is air. This is really everywhere. Do you get it? Do you care? This is water. Growing up poor as dirt. Gotta know if you get hurt. You can call 911, but nobody's gonna come. Tell the truth to yourself. Tell it to somebody else. If we're gonna make it through, gotta find something new. So what are you gonna bring? What are you gonna do? Listen to the sun, to the earth, to the ocean, to the sky. Find a way for you and I. Stay in love and stay alive. We're the one, we're the worth, we're the motion, we're the tribe. Find a way for you and I. Stay in love and stay alive. This is water, this is air. This is really everywhere. Do you get it? Do you care? This is water. When I hear people say we're living in a land of laws, I wonder if they understand how it really works, because nothing good about a law if it don't apply to kings. Nothing good about a song if it ain't a choice to sing. So what are you gonna do? What are you gonna bring? Oh, listen to the sun,